ChatGPT said, ChatGPT. The practical applications of evolutionary concepts span various fields, impacting everything from medicine to conservation. Below are some examples of how the evolution topics you're studying for GATE can be applied. 1. History of evolutionary thought. Understanding the history of evolutionary thought, from Lamarck and Darwin to the modern synthesis, helps inform current research in genetics and evolutionary biology. These ideas are in much of modern efforts, and insights from evolutionary theory are applied in areas such as antibiotic resistance, pest control, and the study of human evolution. 2. Natural selection. Application. Natural selection is a key mechanism in understanding disease evolution. For example, pathogens like viruses and bacteria evolve resistance to drugs through natural selection, making it a cornerstone of medical research. Understanding the process can inform better treatment strategies and vaccination design. In agriculture, it helps in developing pest-resistant crops and understanding the evolution of agricultural pests. 3. Fitness and adaptation. In medicine, understanding how organisms, including pathogens, adapt to their environments is crucial in vaccine development and combating drug resistance. Similarly, fitness and adaptation principles are used in wildlife management and conservation biology, helping conservationists manage and protect endangered species in changing environments. 4. Types of selection. Application. Stabilizing selection is applied in medical genetics to understand the maintenance of genetic traits that confer health benefits. Selection is seen in cases of pest evolution against insecticides or the rapid evolution of traits that are beneficial in particular environments. Disruptive selection can help explain the evolution of certain behaviors or traits, such as coloration patterns in animals, which may be studied in fields like behavioral ecology and evolutionary psychology. 5. Diversity of life. Application. The concept of biological diversity, and the study of how and why organisms diversify, informs biodiversity conservation strategies. By understanding the evolutionary processes that shape life, scientists can prioritize conservation efforts, protect genetic diversity, and mitigate the effects of habitat loss. 6. Origin and history of life. Application. Research into the origins of life informs biotechnological applications such as synthetic biology and the development of life-like systems. Understanding how life evolved on Earth helps in the search for life on other planets, particularly Mars or the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. 7. Life history strategies. Application. Knowledge of life history strategies, such as RK selection, is used in conservation biology, helping manage species populations, particularly endangered species. It also informs agricultural practices, such as the breeding of livestock or crops, for improved production. 8. Coevolution. Application. Coevolution explains the relationships between species that interact closely, such as predator-prey or parasite-host relationships. This concept is applied in developing pest-resistant crops and understanding the dynamics of diseases and their hosts, guiding treatment approaches and vaccine development. 9. Molecular evolution and phylogenetics. Application. Molecular evolution, particularly DNA sequencing, is critical in medicine for tracking the evolution of viruses and bacteria. It is also used in the conservation of endangered species through genetic monitoring, helping to maintain genetic diversity. Phylogenetic trees help in understanding the evolutionary relationships between species and are essential for wildlife conservation. 10. Speciation. Application. The study of speciation is central to understanding how new species arise. This knowledge is vital for conservation programs focused on protecting biodiversity and understanding the effects of human activities on speciation processes, such as habitat fragmentation and climate change. 11. Genetic drift. Application. Genetic drift is applied in population genetics and conservation biology, especially when managing small populations. Understanding how genetic variation can be lost due to random processes is important for preserving endangered species, as it can lead to reduced genetic diversity, affecting a population's ability to adapt. 12. Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Application. The Hardy-Weinberg principle is used in population genetics to assess whether evolutionary processes are occurring in a population. This can help detect changes in allele frequencies, which may signal the influence of selection, gene flow, or genetic drift. 13. Polygenic traits. Application. In medicine, understanding polygenic inheritance is essential for predicting complex traits, such as susceptibility to diseases e.g., heart disease, diabetes. In agriculture, it's used to breed crops and animals with desirable traits, like high yield or disease resistance. 14. Phenotypic plasticity. Application. Phenotypic plasticity plays a significant role in species' ability to adapt to different environmental conditions. This is applied in climate change studies, where understanding how species may adjust to changing temperatures or habitats helps in conservation efforts. 15. Molecular clocks. Application. Molecular clocks are used in evolutionary biology to estimate the timing of evolutionary events. This is especially helpful in tracing the origins of species and studying the evolution of viruses, which can help in designing vaccines or understanding the spread of diseases. 16. Biogeography. Application. Biogeography helps in understanding how species are distributed across the Earth, influencing conservation strategies and the study of invasive species. It also informs the management of ecosystems and helps predict how species might respond to climate change. 17. Phylogenetic reconstruction. Application. Phylogenetic reconstruction is critical for understanding evolutionary history and for making predictions about how species may evolve in the future. This applications in conservation, medicine, and agriculture, where understanding evolutionary relationships helps in breeding programs, disease management, and ecosystem restoration. 18. Macroevolution. Application. Macroevolutionary patterns, such as adaptive radiation and mass extinctions, are essential for understanding large-scale evolutionary trends and for applying this knowledge to modern-day biodiversity conservation. For example, understanding the processes behind mass extinctions can help predict the effects of current human activities on global biodiversity. 19. Convergent evolution. Application. Convergent evolution is used to explain how unrelated species develop similar traits. In medicine, for instance, it helps in understanding how certain diseases evolve similar mechanisms in different species, which can help in the development of universal treatments. 20. Gene flow. Application. Gene flow is crucial in agriculture and conservation. In agriculture, it's important for maintaining genetic diversity in crops and livestock. Conservation. Understanding how gene flow affects small populations can help design strategies to maintain genetic health and prevent inbreeding. Summary. Evolution concepts are not just theoretical, they have wide-reaching applications across medicine, agriculture, conservation, and more. By understanding how natural selection, adaptation, speciation, and other evolutionary processes work, we can tackle some of the biggest challenges in human health, species conservation, and sustainable agriculture. You said, questions ChatGPT said, ChatGPT. Here are some questions based on the practical applications of evolution topics that have been discussed. These questions integrate various aspects of evolutionary theory and its applications. 1. Natural selection and medicine question. How does the concept of natural selection explain the development of antibiotic resistance in bacteria? Answer. Natural selection explains antibiotic resistance by favoring bacteria that possess mutations allowing them to survive exposure to antibiotics. When an antibiotic is introduced, most of the bacterial population is killed, but those with resistant traits survive and reproduce, passing on the resistant genes. Over time, the population evolves to be predominantly resistant to the antibiotic. 2. Fitness and adaptation in conservation question. Why is understanding fitness and adaptation crucial in conservation biology, especially for endangered species? Answer. Understanding fitness and adaptation is essential in conservation biology because it helps predict how species will respond to environmental changes, habitat loss, or climate change. By identifying traits that increase a species' fitness, ability to survive and reproduce, conservationists can focus efforts on protecting populations that possess those advantageous traits or help species adapt to new environments. 3. Coevolution in agriculture question. Give an example of coevolution in agriculture, particularly between crops and pests. Answer. An example of coevolution in agriculture is the interaction between crops and pest species. As pests evolve resistance to chemical pesticides, crops may evolve new defense mechanisms, such as producing different chemical compounds to deter pests. Over time, this results in an arms race between crops and pests, where both evolve adaptations to survive and reproduce. 4. Speciation and biogeography question. How do principles of speciation and biogeography explain the diversity of species in geographically isolated regions like islands? Answer. Speciation and biogeography explain the diversity of species on islands through processes such as allopatric speciation. When populations become geographically isolated, e.g., on different islands they experience different environmental pressures, leading to divergent evolution and the formation of new species. Over time, these isolated populations adapt to their unique environments, resulting in high species diversity on islands, as seen with Darwin's finches on the Galapagos Islands. 5. Molecular evolution and virus tracking question. How is the concept of molecular evolution applied to track the spread of a virus like COVID-19? Answer. Molecular evolution, through the use of genomic sequencing, allows scientists to track the evolution of a virus by comparing genetic variations in viral genomes. By analyzing mutations and genetic changes over time, researchers can track the spread and evolution of the virus across different regions, helping to predict how it may adapt to vaccines or treatments and inform public health responses. 6. Polygenic traits in human health question. Is the concept of polygenic inheritance important in understanding complex human diseases? Answer. Polygenic inheritance is crucial in understanding complex human diseases because many traits, including susceptibility to diseases like heart disease, diabetes, and schizophrenia, are influenced by multiple genes. Understanding how genes interact with each other in the environment can help in developing personalized medicine and targeted treatments for individuals based on their genetic makeup. 7. Gene flow in conservation genetics question. How does gene flow between populations impact conservation genetics? Answer. Gene flow between populations helps maintain genetic diversity, which is critical for the long-term survival and adaptability of species. In conservation genetics, ensuring gene flow between isolated populations can prevent inbreeding and genetic bottlenecks, which can reduce a population's ability to adapt to environmental changes. Managing gene flow is especially important in conservation efforts for endangered species with small populations. 8. Macroevolution and fossil records question. What does the fossil record tell us about macroevolution, and how can it be used to understand large-scale evolutionary trends? Answer. The fossil record provides evidence of macroevolutionary patterns, such as the emergence of new species, extinction events, and the evolution of major traits over geological timescales. By examining fossilized organisms, scientists can reconstruct evolutionary histories, identify transitional forms between species, and understand large-scale processes like adaptive radiation and mass extinctions. 9. Convergent evolution and design of bio-inspired technologies question. How is convergent evolution applied in the design of bio-inspired technologies? Answer. Convergent evolution is applied in bio-inspired technology by studying how different species independently evolve similar traits to solve similar problems. For example, the streamlined body shape of dolphins and sharks has inspired the design of efficient underwater vehicles. Similarly, the structure of bird wings has influenced the design of airplanes. By understanding convergent evolution, engineers can replicate nature's solutions in human-made technologies. 10. Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium and population genetics question. How is the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium used in population genetics to assess evolutionary forces? Answer. The Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium provides a mathematical model to assess whether a population is evolving. If a population is in Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, allele frequencies remain constant across generations. Any deviation from equilibrium indicates the influence of evolutionary forces such as natural selection, genetic drift, mutation, or migration. It is used to detect evolutionary changes in populations and understand the forces at play. Summary. These questions cover a broad range of topics related to the practical applications of evolutionary concepts in fields like medicine, agriculture, conservation, and bioengineering. They not only test your theoretical understanding but also challenge you to think about how evolutionary theory is used to address real-world problems. You said. GATE application level questions evolution previous year ChatGPT said. ChatGPT. To assist you in preparing for the GATE examination, particularly in the ecology and evolution EY subject, here are some application level questions from previous years. 1. Evolutionary mechanisms and disease resistance. Question. Explain how the principles of natural selection and genetic drift contribute to the development of antibiotic resistance in bacterial populations. Answer. Antibiotic resistance arises when bacteria with mutations that confer survival advantages in the presence of antibiotics reproduce, passing these traits to subsequent generations. Natural selection favors these resistant strains, leading to an increase in their frequency. Genetic drift can also play a role, especially in small populations, where random fluctuations in allele frequencies may result in the fixation of resistant traits, even without selective pressure. 2. Speciation and geographic isolation. Question. Discuss how geographic isolation can lead to speciation, using an example from island ecosystems. Answer. Isolation occurs when a population is divided by physical barriers, such as oceans or mountains, preventing gene flow between groups. Over time, these isolated populations adapt to their unique environments through natural selection, leading to genetic divergence. In ecosystems, such as the Galapagos Islands, this process has resulted in the formation of new species, like Darwin's finches, each adapted to specific ecological niches. Coevolution in plant-pollinator relationships. Question. Describe the concept of coevolution with respect to plant-pollinator interactions and its impact on biodiversity. Answer. Coevolution refers to the reciprocal evolutionary changes between interacting species. In plant-pollinator relationships, plants may evolve traits like specific flower shapes or nectar compositions to attract particular pollinators, while pollinators may develop specialized behaviors or anatomical features to access these resources. This mutual adaptation enhances reproductive success for both parties and can lead to increased biodiversity. Specialized interactions may result in the diversification of both plants and pollinators. 4. Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium and population genetics. Question. Given a population where the frequency of the recessive allele for a genetic disorder is 0.1, calculate the expected frequency of carriers heterozygotes under Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Answer. In Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, the frequency of heterozygotes 2pq can be calculated using the formula. P equals frequency of the dominant allele, Q equals frequency of the recessive allele, P plus Q equals 1. Given Q equals 0.1, P equals 1 to 0.1 equals 0.9. Therefore, the frequency of heterozygotes is 2Q equals 2 times 0.9 times 0.1 equals 0.18. Thus, 18% of the population are carriers of the genetic disorder. 5. Molecular evolution and phylogenetic analysis. Question. How can molecular evolution techniques, such as DNA sequencing, be utilized to determine the evolutionary relationships among species? Answer. Molecular evolution techniques, like DNA sequencing, allow scientists to compare genetic material across different species. By analyzing similarities and differences in DNA sequences, researchers can construct phylogenetic trees that depict the evolutionary relationships among species. The degree of genetic divergence indicates the time since two species shared a common ancestor, providing insights into their evolutionary history. 6. Genetic drift and conservation biology. Question. Explain how genetic drift can affect the genetic diversity of small populations and its implications for conservation efforts. Answer. Genetic drift refers to random changes in allele frequencies, which can have a significant impact on small populations. In such populations, alleles can be lost or fixed purely by chance, leading to reduced genetic diversity. This loss of diversity can impair a population's ability to adapt to environmental changes, diseases, or other challenges, making conservation efforts crucial to maintain genetic variation and ensure long-term survival. 7. Adaptive radiation and ecosystem dynamics. Question. Discuss the process of adaptive radiation and its role in the diversification of species within an ecosystem. Answer. Adaptive radiation is the rapid diversification of a single ancestral species into a variety of forms adapted to different ecological niches. This process often occurs when a species colonizes a new environment with diverse habitats and few competitors. Over time, natural selection drives the evolution of distinct species, each specialized for specific resources or environments, leading to increased biodiversity within the ecosystem. 8. Phenotypic plasticity and environmental adaptation. Question. What is phenotypic plasticity, and how does it contribute to an organism's ability to adapt to varying environmental conditions? Answer. Phenotypic plasticity is the ability of an organism to alter its phenotype in response to environmental changes. This flexibility allows individuals to optimize their physiological, morphological, or behavioral traits to better suit different conditions, enhancing survival and reproductive success. For example, some plants can adjust their leaf size or root depth in response to water availability, demonstrating phenotypic plasticity. For a comprehensive understanding and additional practice, you can access previous year's GATE Ecology and Evolution question papers with solutions. PW, Live. These resources will provide valuable insights into the exam pattern and the types of application-level questions you may encounter. Regular practice with these materials will enhance your problem-solving skills and deepen your understanding of evolutionary concepts. Sources. You said. Hardy Problems Explained. ChatGPT said. ChatGPT. The Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium is a fundamental concept in population genetics that provides a mathematical model for understanding how allele frequencies in a population remain constant from generation to generation under certain conditions. This equilibrium serves as a baseline for detecting evolutionary forces acting on a population. To understand the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium in the context of problems, let's break down the key points and apply them to examples. To understand the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium in the context of problems, let's break down the key points and apply them to examples. Key assumptions of Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. No mutation, no new alleles are introduced into the population. Random mating, individuals pair randomly, and no preferential mating occurs. No natural selection, all individuals have an equal chance of survival and reproduction. Large population size. The population is infinitely large to eliminate genetic drift. No gene flow. No migration of individuals into or out of the population. Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium formula. The Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium can be expressed as p squared plus 2pq plus q squared equals 1 where p equals frequency of the dominant allele A, q equals frequency of the recessive allele A, p squared equals frequency of homozygous dominant individuals A, 2pq equals frequency of heterozygous individuals A, q squared equals frequency of homozygous recessive individuals A. Common Hardy-Weinberg problems and their solutions. 1. Calculating allele frequencies from genotypic frequencies problem. In a population, 36% of individuals display the homozygous recessive phenotype for a genetic disorder. What is the frequency of the dominant allele? Solution. Since individuals with the homozygous recessive genotype A display the disorder, their frequency is q squared equals 0.36. To find the frequency of the recessive allele q. Q equals square root q squared equals square root 0.36 equals 0.6. Now, since p plus q equals 1, we can calculate the frequency of the dominant allele p. P equals 1 q equals 1 to 0.6 equals 0.4. Thus, the frequency of the dominant allele A is 0.4. 2. Find the frequency of heterozygotes problem. In the same population, if the frequency of the dominant allele is 0.4, what is the expected frequency of heterozygotes? Solution. We know from Hardy-Weinberg that the frequency of heterozygotes is given by 2pq. We already know p equals 0.4 and q equals 0.6, so 2pq equals 2 times 0.4 times 0.6 equals 0.48. Thus, the frequency of heterozygotes A is 0.48. 3. Finding the genotypic frequencies problem. Given the allele frequencies p equals 0.3 and q equals 0.7, what are the expected frequencies of the three genotypes A? Solution. P squared equals 0.3 squared equals 0.09 2pq equals 2 times 0.3 times 0.7 equals 0.42 q squared equals 0.7 squared equals 0.49. Thus, the expected frequencies of the genotypes are A equals 0.09 equals 0.42 equals 0.49. 4. Testing Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium in a population problem. In a population of 1,000 individuals, the number of individuals showing the dominant phenotype is 850. Given that the dominant trait is due to a single gene with complete dominance, determine if this population is in Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Solution. Determine the frequency of the dominant phenotype AA plus A. There are 850 individuals with the dominant phenotype. The remaining 150 individuals must have the homozygous recessive phenotype A. Calculate the frequency of homozygous recessive individuals q squared, frequency of A equals 151,000 equals 0.15 thus, q squared equals 0.15, and therefore q equals square root 0.15 approximately equals 0.387. Calculate the frequency of the dominant allele p, since p plus q equals 1, we can find p equals 1 to 0.387 approximately equals 0.613. Calculate expected genotype frequencies. P squared equals 0.613 squared approximately equals 0.376 2pq equals 2 times 0.613 times 0.387 approximately equals 0.474 q squared equals 0.15. Calculate expected number of individuals with each genotype. Expected equals 0.376 times 1000 equals 376 expected equals 0.474 times 1000 equals 474 expected equals 0.15 times 1000 equals 150 compare expected and observed frequencies. Observed equals 150, which matches the expected frequency of 150. The observed frequency of A plus A equals 850 matches the combined expected frequency of 376 plus 474 equals 850. Since the observed and expected frequencies are very close, the population appears to be in Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. 5. Effects of evolutionary forces on Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium problem. In a population, the allele frequencies for a gene controlling fur color are p equals 0.5 and q equals 0.5. If a genetic bottleneck event occurs, how would this affect the population's allele frequencies? Solution. A genetic bottleneck significantly reduces the population size, causing a loss of genetic variation and increasing the impact of genetic drift. As a result, the allele frequencies may change randomly, leading to a deviation from Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. In small populations, genetic drift can cause certain alleles to become fixed, frequency equals 1, or lost frequency equals 0, altering the genetic makeup of the population. Key points for solving Hardy-Weinberg problems. Understand the basic Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium formula p squared plus 2pq plus q squared equals 1. Use the known values, genotypic frequencies or allele frequencies, to calculate the missing quantities. If the observed genotype frequencies significantly differ from the expected frequencies, this could indicate the presence of evolutionary forces, like natural selection or genetic drift, acting on the population. Practice using these formulas with various problems to strengthen your understanding. These are some of the types of Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium problems you may encounter, including calculations for allele frequencies, genotype frequencies, and testing for equilibrium. You said. Real-life example and application of evolution theory and principles. ChatGPT said. ChatGPT. Evolutionary theory and principles have far-reaching applications in numerous fields, ranging from medicine and agriculture to conservation and climate science. Here are several real-life examples and applications of evolutionary concepts. 1. Antibiotic resistance in bacteria concept, natural selection. Example, the increasing resistance of bacteria to antibiotics like penicillin and methicillin is a direct application of Darwin's theory of natural selection. Bacteria reproduce rapidly, and genetic mutations can lead to some individuals having resistance to antibiotics. When antibiotics are used, the susceptible bacteria are killed, but the resistant bacteria survive and reproduce, passing on the resistance genes to future generations. Over time, this results in populations of bacteria that are harder to treat with conventional drugs. Application. Understanding this evolutionary process has led to strategies for combating antibiotic resistance, such as developing new antibiotics, using antibiotics more judiciously, and employing combination therapies. 2. Agricultural practices, pest control. Concept. Coevolution and natural selection. Example. Pesticide resistance in agricultural pests is another demonstration of evolution in action. Just as bacteria can evolve resistance to antibiotics, pests like insects can evolve resistance to chemical pesticides. Pesticides kill the susceptible pests, but those with genetic mutations allowing them to survive pass on these traits to the next generation. Over time, this can make pesticides less effective. Application. Integrated pest management (IPM) systems have been developed to manage this problem. They involve using biological controls, rotating pesticides with different mechanisms of action, and promoting biodiversity to slow the development of resistance. 3. Evolution of vaccines. Concept. Evolution and adaptation. Example. The development of vaccines for diseases such as influenza and COVID-19 is based on understanding the evolutionary processes of viruses. Influenza, for instance, constantly evolves through mutations and genetic recombination, leading to new strains every year. This is why the flu vaccine needs to be updated annually to include the most recent strains of the virus. Application. Researchers monitor viral mutations and genetic changes to predict and prepare vaccines that target the most likely strains, illustrating the importance of evolutionary knowledge in public health. 4. Conservation biology and biodiversity. Concept. Genetic drift, natural selection, speciation. Example. The study of evolutionary processes is crucial for conservation efforts. The CHA, for instance, has a very low level of genetic diversity due to a historical bottleneck, which makes it more susceptible to disease and less adaptable to environmental changes. Similarly, understanding the process of speciation helps in efforts to protect endangered species and manage wildlife reserves. Application. Evolutionary principles are used in creating genetic management plans for endangered species, ensuring that breeding programs maintain genetic diversity. For example, zoos and wildlife parks may use genetic analysis to select individuals for breeding to avoid inbreeding depression. 5. Domestication of plants and animals. Concept. Artificial selection. Example. The domestication of animals like dogs, cattle, and chickens, and plants like wheat, corn, and rice, is a clear application of artificial selection, a human-directed form of evolution. Over tens of years, humans have selected individuals with desirable traits, e.g., larger size, higher yield, docility to reproduce, gradually shaping the domesticated species. Application. This process is still ongoing, as modern breeding techniques allow for faster and more targeted improvements. In agriculture, genetically modified organisms, GMOs, are an extension of artificial selection, where genes from different species are transferred to improve crop resistance, nutrition, or yield. 6. Forensic science, evolutionary principles in DNA analysis. Concept. Genetic variation, population genetics. Example. Evolutionary principles are applied in forensic science through the use of DNA analysis. Study of genetic variation within populations helps forensic scientists to match DNA samples found at crime scenes with suspects. Evolutionary genetic markers, which evolve at a relatively constant rate, can be used to trace lineage or migration patterns, identifying familial connections. Application. In criminal investigations, genetic profiling using markers that are common in human populations can help narrow down suspects or identify victims. Scientists also apply population genetics to predict how frequently a particular DNA profile might appear in a given population. 7. Human evolution and medical research. Concept. Human evolution, adaptation, and evolutionary medicine. Example. Studying human evolution provides insights into the origins of various diseases and health conditions. The theory of evolution helps us understand why humans are prone to certain diseases, such as heart disease, cancer, and diabetes, which are linked to genetic mutations that may have been advantageous in the past but are maladaptive in modern environments. Application. Evolutionary medicine applies principles of evolution to understand the causes of diseases and conditions in modern human populations. For example, the study of genetic predispositions to diseases, like sickle cell anemia, explains how certain genetic traits that may seem disadvantageous today could have offered protection against diseases like malaria in ancestral environments. 8. Evolution of human behavior. Concept. Behavioral ecology, kin selection, altruism. Example. Evolutionary principles are also used to explain human behavior, such as cooperation, altruism, and social structures. The theory of kin selection, which suggests that individuals are more likely to help relatives because they share a portion of their genes, helps explain behaviors like parental investment, familial care, and social cooperation. Application. Understanding the evolutionary roots of human behavior has implications for psychology, sociology, and even economics. It is also used in social policies, where understanding group dynamics and cooperation can inform decisions in areas like resource allocation and conflict resolution. 9. Evolutionary approaches in climate change research. Concept. Adaptation, evolutionary ecology. Climate change is exerting selective pressure on species, leading to evolutionary changes in traits such as tolerance to temperature extremes or drought. Understanding how species adapt to changing environmental conditions through evolutionary principles helps predict the future impact of climate change on biodiversity. Application. Evolutionary biology is used to model how species will respond to climate change. This can inform conservation strategies and help in the design of protected areas and wildlife corridors, ensuring that species can adapt or migrate to suitable habitats. Conclusion. The application of evolutionary theory in real-life scenarios has profound implications across many fields, from improving public health and biodiversity conservation to advancing agricultural practices and understanding human behavior. Evolution is not just a theoretical framework, it is a powerful tool for addressing contemporary challenges in medicine, conservation, and beyond. By recognizing the ongoing nature of evolutionary processes, we can develop more effective strategies for solving problems that impact society and the natural world. You said. Most important previous year questions from EvolutionGate. ChatGPT said. ChatGPT. Here are some of the most important and frequently asked topics from evolution in previous GATE papers. These topics cover a wide range of evolutionary principles and are crucial for the GATE ecology and evolution paper. 1. Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium question type, calculation based and conceptual key points. Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium states that allele frequencies in a population remain constant from generation to generation in the absence of evolutionary influences. The 5 conditions for Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium: no mutation, random mating, no natural selection, large population size, and no gene flow. The equations to remember. P plus Q equals 1, where P is the frequency of allele A and Q is the frequency of allele A. P squared plus 2PQ plus Q squared equals 1, genotype frequencies for A, and A. Previous year question example. Q. In a population, 64% of the individuals are homozygous dominant AA. What is the frequency of the heterozygous A individuals in the population? Answer. Given that P squared equals 0.64, P equals square root 0.64 equals 0.8. Therefore, Q equals 1 to 0.8 equals 0.2. The frequency of heterozygotes A is 2PQ equals 2 asterisk 0.8 asterisk 0.2 equals 0.32. 2. Mendelian genetics. Question type, conceptual and cross-calculation key points. Understand Mendel's laws of inheritance, law of segregation and law of independent assortment. Understand dihybrid and monohybrid crosses and their outcomes. Application of Mendel's principles in predicting genetic ratios in offspring. Previous year question example. Q. In a cross between two pea plants, one heterozygous for both seed shape round R and seed color yellow Y, and the other homozygous recessive for both traits wrinkled R and green Y, what proportion of the offspring will be round and green? Answer. The crosses are RRYY times RRYY. The probability of round and green offspring RR and YY is 1/4 for shape and 1/4 for color. So, 1/4 asterisk 1/4 equals 1/16. 3. Genetic drift. Question type, conceptual and application key points. Genetic drift is a random fluctuation in allele frequencies due to chance events, especially in small populations. It leads to a reduction in genetic variation and can lead to the loss of alleles. Previous year question example. Q. In a population of 100 individuals, there are 50 individuals with allele A and 50 with allele A. If 10 individuals are randomly selected and removed, what is the expected change in allele frequencies due to genetic drift? Answer. The answer requires understanding of random sampling, and expected drift is proportional to the population size. 4. Natural selection. Question type, conceptual and case studies key points. Natural selection acts on phenotypic variation and leads to adaptive changes in populations over generations. Understand the types of selection: stabilizing, directional, and disruptive. The concept of fitness and adaptation. Previous year question example. Q. In a population of moths, darker moths have a higher survival rate than lighter moths. If the population is subject to predation by birds that preferentially hunt lighter moths, what type of selection is this an example of? Answer. This is an example of directional selection, where the population shifts toward a phenotype darker moths that confers a survival advantage. 5. Speciation. Question type, conceptual and application key points. Understand the different modes of speciation: allopatric, sympatric, parapatric, and parapatric. Mechanisms that lead to reproductive isolation and the formation of new species. Previous year question example. Q. Which of the following is an example of allopatric speciation? A population of birds is separated by a mountain range, leading to genetic divergence. A group of insects begins to specialize on different food sources in the same area. A group of mammals inhabits different niches within the same ecosystem but interacts minimally. Answer. The correct answer is option 1. A population of birds is separated by a mountain range, leading to genetic divergence. This is the definition of allopatric speciation, where physical barriers lead to isolation and eventual speciation. 6. Fitness and adaptation. Question type, conceptual and application key points. Fitness refers to an organism's ability to survive and reproduce in its environment. Adaptations are traits that increase the fitness of an organism. Previous year question example. Q. Which of the following is most likely to be an example of an adaptation that increases an organism's fitness in a particular environment? The development of thicker fur in cold climates. The development of a larger body size in a tropical rainforest. The evolution of non-swimming legs in aquatic birds. Answer. Option 1. The development of thicker fur in cold climates is an adaptation that increases survival and reproductive success in colder environments. 7. Molecular evolution. Question type, conceptual and phylogenetics-based key points. Molecular evolution deals with the changes in genetic material, DNA, RNA, proteins, over time. Molecular clocks and their use in estimating the time of divergence of species. Previous year question example. Q. Which of the following statements about molecular clocks is true? Molecular clocks evolve at a constant rate across all species. Molecular clocks are used to estimate divergence times between species based on genetic differences. The rate of mutation in molecular clocks is irrelevant to their use in estimating evolutionary time. Answer. Option 2. Molecular clocks are used to estimate divergence times between species based on genetic differences, and the rate of mutation is typically used to calibrate them. 8. Coevolution. Question type, conceptual and interaction-based key points. Coevolution refers to the reciprocal evolutionary influence between two or more species. Examples include predator-prey relationships, parasite-host interactions, and plant-pollinator dynamics. Previous year question example. The relationship between flowering plants and their pollinators is an example of which type of coevolution? Mutualistic. Competitive antagonistic. Answer. Option 1. The relationship between flowering plants and their pollinators is a mutualistic coevolutionary relationship, where both the plants and pollinators benefit from the interaction. 9. Adaptive radiation. Question type, conceptual and case studies key points. Adaptive radiation is the rapid diversification of a lineage into different ecological niches. Common examples include Darwin's finches and the evolution of mammals after the dinosaur extinction. Previous year question example. Q. Adaptive radiation is most likely to occur when a population expands into new, unoccupied ecological niches. Organisms exhibit little to no genetic diversity. A population undergoes gradual changes in environmental conditions. And option 1. Adaptive radiation is most likely to occur when a population expands into new, unoccupied ecological niches, allowing for diversification. Tips for gate evolution questions. Focus areas: natural selection, Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, speciation, fitness, and adaptation are often asked. Calculations: be prepared for Hardy-Weinberg and Mendelian genetics-based calculation questions. Conceptual understanding. Evolutionary concepts like genetic drift, coevolution, and adaptive radiation are tested through both theoretical and applied questions. Application-based questions. Questions often use real-life examples like antibiotic resistance, speciation, and adaptation to test your understanding of evolutionary principles. These questions and the related concepts are fundamental for the GATE exam. Focus on understanding the underlying principles, practicing calculations, and reviewing real-life examples to gain a comprehensive grasp of evolutionary biology.